You're listening to Say What.
What? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you.
Say What Radio Network.
But but Mr. President, look, I'm gonna get the hair combed sometime soon. I just haven't got around to it yet. Oh.
Bonus episodes.
Thank you for tuning in on this bonus episode of Say What Radio. Got your girl Justice here. It's been a while since I've done one of these, mainly because of life, I guess. But usually when I do this, it is with the wonderful Phoenix Ash, going over some other stuff, or I've done a few with some other people in interviews and things like that. And I wanted to do this one with this incredible person who has been on the network technically, just hasn't been published at this point. Met this person, what is this, 2 years ago? Ago? 2 years, 2 years ago or so. Something like that.
Mr. Anniversary about 2 years ago.
Yeah. And sometimes you meet people and stuff just clicks, sometimes it doesn't. But there's always that instance where it's just like, you want to be best friends? Did we just become best friends? Like, the whole stepbrothers thing.
Yep.
It just happens. And they're not only are they a good person, good father, husband, colleague, and whatnot, but they're also one of the, I don't want to say ally, but they're the ones putting in the work in the D&I space, and I wanted to showcase that. So I want to welcome the amazing, the incomparable Al. Is that where we're going by?
I think so. Let's go with Al until I get a cooler nickname. I was gonna go with Jules, but that was already taken.
Would it be like Jewels, like where you're actually like rubies, diamonds, and stuff?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. No. Jules would veto that in a second. We're not doing that. No.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll respect Jules.
Okay. But welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all the nice words. I know I'm going to have to write a check later for all those. So thank you.
Yeah. Big vocabulary. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's an awesome lady on TikTok, Aunt Bev. Not TikTok. Well, she might be on TikTok too, but Aunt Bev, like, she gives the most. I love language. I love words and things like that. She gives the most intricate and eloquent ways to cuss somebody out, and I love it. Like, I've never thought about calling you, you're such a litigious person. And it's like, what? What does that mean? You look it up. Did you just call me a hoe? Yes. Love it.
It's so good. I'm going to have to look her up and just make sure you haven't said these things about me yet.
But okay. So, like I said, about 2 years ago, I was working at a place that I loved at the time, and I loved helping with some of the extracurricular things to be able to promote diversity and inclusion within companies, as well as just honestly working in the company. I have always been a proponent of collaboration and, reaching across the aisle, because a lot of times, being a person of color in any instance, if you're in the corporate setting, you see a lot of people that tend to just stay in their lane. They never reach out or talk to anybody because they just want to keep their head down and don't want to rock the boat in any way, even if it's in a good way. They don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me. I'm coming in kicking doors. How you doing? What you doing? How you do that? Oh, that's what you do? Oh, wow. I've never seen something like that. Oh, you taught me something. I that is me in every instance, because I want to know how stuff works. Yeah, it can be a bit overbearing sometimes, but hey, I'm not going to learn any other way, and I may not get this chance again. So in that instance, I was introduced to you.
Yeah.
And I want to think of it kind of like, I don't know if you remember those Looney Tunes cartoons back in the day with the little dog and the big dog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, hey.
It's a really good descriptor of that first interaction, and basically everyone ever since.
But it's been interesting in that way, because most people I don't want to say our age, because you're older than me. You actually gonna let me get away with that?
Oh, man. I'm like, man, this is her show. I don't want to say it, but yeah, no, I'm older than you. That's good. I'll go with that.
No. Oh my God. Anyways, but when you get to a certain age, honestly, after like middle school, knowing people and having friends just don't really work. And I'm talking about like somebody you would just call up and be like, so I had a date today and the guy shit himself. And they just, well, stuff happens.
No, Well, what did
I-
he eat? It's probably not his fault. It's fine. Been there. It's okay.
or they're just calling you in the middle of the day, going, like I was at the store buying what the hell was it, garbage licenses or
Garbage
whatever the fuck
stickers.
garbage stickers, and they go into a whole spiel of why garbage stickers are a thing, which to me, again, in my inquisitive nature, was like, the hell, you need licenses for garbage? Because that's the way I equated it.
Let me just back up this story a little bit. I called about something completely different. I just happened to be at the store because it just happened to be garbage day the next day, and I had some excess waste, and I had to put you on hold. And now at this point, I wish I would have muted my phone and said, "Oh, hang on one second, Justice. Let me just do this." But instead, I said, "Oh, can I get a couple garbage stickers?" And it took me 45 minutes to explain it to you, and you still refused to understand why I needed these garbage stickers. But it's a good microcosm of how we got here, right?
And I know this is probably, people are going like, this is just a weird dynamic. Probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
It works
Stay
for us.
tuned. It gets weirder. But it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. But why? So, like I said, after a certain age, it does seem to be hard to kind of like have friends. What do you think made it click for us to where it wasn't just, okay, we had this project that we worked on together and that was fun, where we just continued after that? Like, I don't even work at that company anymore, but we still talk probably more than we did before then.
Oh yeah, constantly. And really when I sit and think about it, I think it comes down to how that first interaction went with us. So to give a little bit of background, I was running this D&I group and we were just getting started, and we had let's call it a relatively small budget when we started, and the group wanted to do these videos. And so I looked at some outside people, looking at what they wanted and what they had, and I said, I don't know, like I might be able to fit one 30-second video in with this budget that we have. Maybe there's somebody that does it internally, right? And that conversation before we met turned into like, hey, and I said, hey, I want to support a Black-owned business. And if we can do that with somebody we love, because I keep hearing about all these employees that have these side hustles or separate businesses or whatever, like if we can do that, that's the route we need to go. And so when we first met, and it was just, one of my friends gave me your name because of a project you had worked on with her before. Didn't really know you that well, but knew you did this, and she knew I needed to find somebody. So when we got together, I went in there like honestly a little bit nervous when I'm like, okay, how am I going to make this work? She's going to tell me this is going to be too much money. It's going to be out of range. I won't be able to help. I'm going to look like this jerk. And like all these things are running through my mind. And you come on the camera, and you just, very few people like don't blur their backgrounds at this point, right? And all I see is all your Wonder Woman garb behind you, right? and it was just like this look on your face, like and looking back on it, it's easy to pick out now, but and we say it all the time, like I came to you with Spielberg ideas and like this indie film budget and said, hey, what can we do? And you just listened, right? And I could see it in your face that my expectations were a little bit out of line, but you were so upfront with me from the beginning, and we just like we laughed over goofy stuff. And I'll often try like I won't say bad jokes, but they're not great. They're not home runs. I know that. And you genuinely laughed at them and had something even funnier to come back with, right? So when I think about how we got here, it all started that first day. And I think that's so rare that it was special. And so as we got to know each other a little bit better through the project, no conversation we ever had was like exclusively about the project. And we just started sharing like these things like we were old friends, probably from the second time we spoke.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't tell you why. It just happened. And the reason why I bring this up is because I am, unfortunately, an elder millennial on TikTok. And I see a lot of times where people are like, men and women can't be friends, or men and women being friends only leads to, just heartache and bullshit and all kind of other stuff. And I was just like, why? And I realize that a lot of people don't understand the nuances of different relationships. And I'm just like, if you have that dynamic, like, please just roll with it. Just keep it as long as you can. because life will change, things will change, and that happens with all kinds of friends. So I get
Oh
that.
yeah.
But the fact that people will just automatically, you just put the two together, just like, no, this just not gonna work. Like, man, hey. So when I would tell people that me and you would be either collaborating on something, you've put me up for something regarding my business or just me as a person, I was just like, he's doing this, and they're like, yeah, that don't sound right, and it was just like, why? Why are you already like kind of like wanting to downplay this already? Like this person is really, really cool. I swear to God, I could probably come to him with some of the craziest stuff, and I probably have in some instances, and he not look at me crazy as a friend and be very, very, very supportive. And I will say, you've probably been like, Jess, that really, in some instances, it's
Oh yeah.
a lot of
No,
support.
lots of them, but I tell you that too. But it doesn't make it any less valid, right? And you've done the
Yeah.
same to me. I've come with some real weird stuff.
But why do you think that is?
I think I think probably because of the nature of the project we started working on, right? When we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, these buzzwords that people talk about all the time. But from the beginning, you and I said we want to make this real. And so everything we did or attempted to do to try and draw the stuff out, we came at it from a very authentic place from ourselves, right? And so I think and I understand a lot of people looking at our relationship like, oh man, that's weird. Like, what's the catch here? I mean, really, we're like 2,000 miles apart, anyways, right? So that that helps. But the idea is like, I don't know, like when I met you, I saw what you were about right away, and you haven't wavered from that. And I'd like to think you did the same, right? So I think I see you out here working and putting all this work in, and like you're teaching me about it as you go. I see how much goes into it. So just like you would do for any friend, if there's anything I can do to support you, I'm going to do that. And I think the difference is like they're just not empty statements with us, and I think it's just the tone that we set.
I also think it probably, and this is probably a boomer statement, but it's the time that we come from. It's just that it means more. It's not that microwave society type feeling or whatever. It is like, okay, this isn't something that comes along a lot of times as far as like friendships. And I am a woman of color, about yay big. I could drown in a raindrop. But everywhere I go, in a lot of instances, I get told I'm intimidating. I don't think I've ever heard you say to me anything other than you're awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember one of the instances where I told you where he was intimidating, and before I could finish, saying that the guy is like, and he thought he was like, man, that should have been like he should have been all over you. I was like, why? Tell me more.
Say more.
But in this world, in this time, considering that everybody's trying to be PC and trying not to hurt anybody's feelings, I don't think I've ever sat and thought like I could not come to you about something. And I thank you for that.
No, listen.
Have there been times where you felt like, I shouldn't say that? Jess is gonna be a little weirded out by that.
No.
And I know
never.
that. What?
No, listen, I've said some provocative things over the time, right? And not like provocative in the sense of like race, because I am not a woman of color. I am a white man in the Midwest, right? So, I mean, when we talk about race, that's usually the most. It's the biggest chance that I might say something that isn't heard the right way, or I might hear something that you didn't mean, right? Like it's a dicey area for us to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think when we talk about it, the biggest thing is like I've always tried to be very clear and consistent with who I am, and I think you've known that over time. So I think if I did say something off color or wrong, I know you would just check me, completely out of love, and that would be it, and it would be a learning moment, and I would do the same thing.
Now, the reason why I brought that up is because I have that affinity for before Trevor Noah left the Daily Show, he was giving praise to Black women, and he was just like, listen, yeah, like everything I know is from a Black woman, learn from a Black woman. But right now, can very much feel as though you're being attacked for just being that for a number of reasons. So
Yeah.
for me, I I don't realize if that is the way that I make people feel, like I said about the intimidating thing when someone was saying. So the fact that you were just like, oh, I saw it this way, and the guy should have seen it this way, and I was just like, oh, tell me more. But in that sense, I always felt like you felt like you were learning from me for something or being educated on a scenario or a even just the culture in general. I remember you asking me before, like, would this there was something that you were one of the positions that you were up for, and you were like, would this be different if it was, since I'm trying to be in the DNI space and this is something, is it coming off as virtue signaling or, like a savior
Hmm.
type thing, since I am a white man. I was just like, there's no way you can get around that. It is probably going to be something that you're going to come up against. You just have to stand true in what you want to do, and that you're here for that. You would have to be something. It would have to be something that you have to fight through. And you were like, I get that. I get that. And then continue on. But how do I fight it? I was like, there's no way to fight that. You just acknowledge it, accept it, and continue on. And I think it was for me. I don't know about you, but I think in that moment is where I was kind of like, he really does just want to. Not again. I don't like saying the word ally because it to me it's more than that. So he just really wants to be a part of change. So
Yeah.
that was my instance.
I've got to thank you for that conversation too, because it was one of those moments where I was really struggling with, part of it is what do you want to be when you grow up, and I really felt like I was being pulled into this space deeper than where I currently was, and that was one of those moments where I was shook, and I think I asked you. I said, I know there's going to be a lot of white people that don't understand what I'm doing and maybe get upset at me, but I said, but what about the black people and the brown people and like all these people of color that I so badly just want to lift up? What if they don't accept me? And you were just, I remember you were just so blunt about it and so honest. It was like, they might not. And you just let it sit there for a minute. And I was like, whoa, you're right. They won't, or they might not. Right. But we talked through some of those strategies and how to do it. And it was one of those things that like that conversation I will always remember in anything that I ever do, because that was the motivator for me that says, yeah, that's fine. You may not hire me for this. You may not like me. You can find whatever reason, but I'm still going to stand up and do this. And that was, it was special. I remember that. I'm glad you brought that one up.
Well, so I wanted to lend credence to like what I'm saying here, or thought process as to why I continued on to it. It was some of the conversation, and I've had some crazy ass conversations in my life with some people who are not black, but I've always been open and honest, or wanted to be, about, life and struggles as a woman of color, so and a black woman specifically. And I have to bring this up because it's always just hilarious. I don't think if I can get past being at a job and one of the first questions being asked is, why don't black people like to swim at work? And genuinely, looking up at me like, I need to know.
Like, like they've never been around somebody and this is their chance to ask.
But
It's really been eating at them.
But that's the thing. Everybody has those moments.
Yeah.
And it especially in this politically correct climate. Do you take it or do you not? Or do you just go off with this, story that you make up in your head or whatever about it? Or do you actually ask somebody? And like I was saying to you, some of those people may not want to be asked about it. Some of those people may just want to be left alone and don't want to do the work. That's not gonna, take anything away from what you're trying to do. So that was really, really poignant to me after that. But just the laughs and the craziness that we still to this day, I think it's what, Wordle, that we just do every day for no reason.
Every day.
And Wordle shouldn't be a thing now. But there was at one point we were just doing it every morning. It's like, hey, got this Wordle. Now it's just like, fuck the New York Times, because they got crazy ass words now. Like,
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
just, man.
we had a lot of angst, and I think it's also a little bit embarrassing that like we're both familiar with the backstory and when it changed, why New York Times took over. Like we're that invested in it.
Yeah.
And so mad at them. So mad.
It's because it's their reason. I mean, before it would have some good words, there would be some curse words or whatever in there, but like now it's just like you can't put a word with like three of a single letter. That's not fair.
No.
I'm ranting.
We used to have to fight a double letter. Let's digress. Don't get me started on Wordle. We'll still take sponsorships from the New York Times if you're listening.
Yeah, we will. Please. Please. But that was me just wanting to kind of like dive into why we're friends. And like I said, we're going to have more conversations after this. I wanted this first episode to kind of get into that. I hope it doesn't come off as us just being like, oh, I love you. No, I love you. No, I love you. And if it does, oh, well.
Yeah.
There'll be more of those, probably. It's my
Yeah,
show.
well, let me ask you, Justice. So what are your thoughts on it? Like, why are we the way that we are? And are we the exception? Or like, what is stopping more people from saying like, oh yeah, I've got a friend like this too, right? Or like, what is it about us that people are eventually just like accepting like, oh, okay, yeah, they really vibe.
Fear. And it's not necessarily fear of how to look or whatnot, just fear of actually having it. What would it take to continue on? Like, I'm going to lose this if I have it. Also, what does it mean rather than just accepting it for what it is? I think a lot of people blind themselves by putting ridiculous expectations or setting or saying, I should have expectations on this rather than just experiencing it, being present in it, and for whatever reason, feeling like it has to shift into something. Like whatever happens, it happens. I don't expect anything from you. I hope other than respect.
Yeah.
I expect it, but I do realize that it's also something I got to earn from you. I'm not finna just demand it. Then that if I did, that would be the intimidating factor there. But other than that, that's just like the only thing. But I really do think it boils down to fear and people just not wanting to let it be. It's always being set by some sort of expectation. That's just always what I thought it is. I don't know why though. I can't understand. Like, you hear people saying that they would put everything on their line on the line for some sort of romantic love, but having a friend or a actual bond doesn't seem to fall in that same thing. But you'll also hear that people are lonely. Well, if you're not building those connections with other people who are not of a romantic nature, how the hell are you gonna do that with somebody that you want to slap stomachs with? What the hell? That's not gonna work.
That's the most justice thing you can say, and another microcosm of a normal conversation between us. Yeah, I think it's I think it's a good testament to being open and being in that moment, like you said, because it's one of those things that if like I honestly don't know where I would be without this friendship that we have, and I'm grateful for it all the time, and I hope that the people hear this and they say, yeah, okay, who is that person? Like let's let loose and have that conversation, because there's never been anything I felt like was off limits for us to talk about, and there's been some weird stuff, real weird stuff. And I remember one of the funniest things, and I still laugh about this, is so I had this I called it Weekend of Al, right, where I had the house to myself. And all I wanted to do was make this shrimp and grits dish that I had down in Alabama. And so for those of you that don't know, Justice is, I don't know if chef is even good enough, but you're a food critic and a chef all at the same time. And I can list off like 4 ingredients and you can tell me what I'm missing and what's wrong. And it's always really funny. So I kept talking about this like all week, and I could feel her rolling her eyes at me through this, knowing I'm going to screw this up somehow. And so she gave me all these tips, and she was like, oh, make sure you don't do this. Yeah, whatever. It'll be fine. Like, long story short, I didn't listen to anything that she had said. So I'm going in and I'm like 2 hours into this shrimp and grits experiment, and Justice calls and she's like, "Hey, how did it turn out?" And she knew it wasn't done yet. She knew I had screwed something up. So I actually had to turn the video on and show her what I did. And I think a good 15 straight minutes, you just laughed and rolled your eyes at the same time, and helped me get through that. And I faked like it was really good at the end of it, but at the end of the day, I had 30 pounds of shrimp and grits, and it was terrible, just terrible. And I should have just listened. And now I feel good admitting that live on air here.
And we will actually go there. Is this a shrimp and grits like situation here? Yeah. There will be references that go back to that. So
Yeah.
oh man, I would never forget that. Never forget that. That was a lot of grits.
There's so many grits.
Oh man, but I was about to say I commend you for trying, but no. You should have just
And I haven't been brave enough to like try it again because I can't answer to you and how they turn out. It's so good. So good.
oh man. Okay, I think that's a perfect to end this. I can't even talk.
You're still laughing about this. Is a year and a half ago. We still can't talk about it.
Okay, I'm done.
Listen, they weren't that bad. Okay, I could do better, but they weren't that bad.
Oh man, it looked like the pot from Hogwarts where they would just.
It wasn't that bad. Okay.
All right, thank you for tuning in. Please tune in for. We'll probably be doing a few more of these, and it'll just be us talking about different stuff. But I wanted to go over this. This is
The
great.
editor's
Men
gonna
and
be
women,
so busy.
men and women can't be friends, but don't double the.
As always, please continue to follow us on social media. Say What Radio for all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz. Again, thank you for tuning in. As always, the biggest compliment you guys can give us is to really, really, really share, like, subscribe, review the show on iTunes, Google Play, thumbs up on Facebook, everything. Tell your family, friends about the show. We may not be everybody's cup of tea, but hey, let them listen and we can come to an agreement. You know, you like this, don't like this. But that was funny. Yes, it was. Thank you for tuning in. Catch us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
I'm dying in this fucking fucked up town. Shit flying in my mouth. Let's get the fuck out this country, motherfucker. The fuck is that?
Say what again?